Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park here in Racine. You can always join us. You can call. You can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Lots coming up on the show today. Darin Rudin will be joining us right after the 11 o'clock news to talk about the still languishing farm bill, which is really important to Wisconsin farmers. So we'll find out where the status of that is.
Yeah, it's important to, honestly,
to all of us.
All of us.
Absolutely. Dr. Laura Hanks will be here for public Cervix announcement at 11:33. And, of course, we will wrap it all up with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it's the Remains of the Day edition.
That sounds fancy.
Doesn't it sound fancy?
Sounds very fancy.
It might not be exactly what you think. So
It never is.
It never is. If you ever have a thing you think should not be, you can send it in to Greg and me at Jane Says, JANESAYS. Jane Says at civicmedia.us. I did want to come on and share some breaking news with you. This is really tragic.
Yeah.
CNN reporting that the CEO of United Healthcare was shot and killed in Midtown Manhattan earlier this morning. It happened outside of a Hilton hotel in Midtown. Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, was reportedly walking towards the hotel in a suit and tie. He was attending a meeting of investors, I believe. A gunman who investigators say CNN, he was waiting for some time before Brian Thompson arrived, opened fire from 20 feet away using a silencer, hitting Thompson multiple times. Details continue to come out, but at this point, according to CNN, they say it does appear to be a targeted shooting.
With a silencer, too. I did not hear that.
That's very targeted and very meditated.
Yeah.
So tragic, obviously, for Mr. Thompson and his family. And we will be updating you as details become available. But this kind of tragically blends into something that happened closer to home. In Kenosha police from TMJ4 arrested a 16-year-old student on Monday at Indian Trail High School after investigators say he brought a loaded gun into the school. Kenosha police took him into custody. He made it into the school with an actual gun. It's crazy, according to another parent at the Indian Trail High School. She was picking up her daughter for after-school activities. The mother was obviously very frightened. According to KUSD, the student was searched by 2 Kenosha officers. The gun was not found, but it was found on him while he was in custody. Again, this report from TMJ4.com. The situation about a month after a potential school shooting got stopped at Kenosha's Roosevelt Elementary School when a 13-year-old tried getting into the school with airsoft guns. Very, very concerning. Obviously, parents not happy about this. I'm sure school officials not happy about this. At least one parent said she would like to see metal detectors added to the schools and more policing. There is going to be a referendum in February.
Yeah.
And the school board does have plans to enhance security if funds are secured through the referendum. This is an eternal worry now for parents.
Yeah, and the fact that you have to say something to the effect of, like, they need metal detectors. It's not something that, I didn't grow up in grade school and middle school with metal detectors. I don't know how new
that
they
works.
are.
Are they new? I don't think so.
Calvin, can you give us an idea? Did the schools you went to, did they have metal detectors? Did you know kids who went to schools who had that type of policing or protection?
I always feel a little out of touch with this because I went to an extremely small high school. I graduated with 70 kids. Only had 300 kids in my whole high school. So I think I had a more sheltered experience. I don't know.
I would say you have a more of traditional, honestly, like where you're not having to deal with police. I don't know what the
school safety officers.
The school officers and metal detectors and those kinds of things. I think that's something that's from I don't want to say the olden days, but from even when I was a kid, it was the same thing. I didn't have those things.
Well, good heavens, we would never.
Yeah.
Back when I was in school, I was in school in the 60s.
Yeah.
And 70s. So no, if you're listening and you have a kid in high school or a kid in grade school, I would be very curious to know if metal detectors are common now. 855-752-4842. And certainly this isn't just an urban problem.
No. No, because Kenosha is not. I wouldn't consider any. It's
Well, it's a pretty large city.
it's a large city, but it's also. I mean, I don't know. To me, we had a comment on the live stream say it's about time they start asking for metal detectors. I think my point is that now that that's it. My point is that's almost a foregone conclusion that parents have to say, like, well, get metal detectors in there. Where honestly, if I was a parent, of course I'd worry about my child being in any school nowadays, because it doesn't matter where your kid goes to school. This is possible. But also, when you're saying I want there to be metal detectors, that would make me nervous too. Like, it's a no-win situation.
Yeah. Kenosha Unified School District is moving forward with a plan to enhance security. They did approve this referendum question that will be on the ballots in February. Christy Murphy, a parent in the district, says, I just want us to focus on the actual issue and not get us further into debt. The only way to keep our kids safe is by preventing threats from getting into the building. And I know we have talked about other security measures that schools can do, trying to, have hedges around the building so you can't see into the classrooms, things like that.
There's a whole new industry now in classroom protection, whether it's like simple locks that you can engage from the inside of the room to like entire walls that come apart and protect the room itself. And it's like, I don't know. It's really, it feels almost, it just feels overwhelming as a parent. You almost have to judge how good a school is by their school shooter protocols and what do they have in place to keep the kids safe versus how good is the actual education.
Yeah. PJ on the live stream, back in the 90s, they brought up the idea of metal detectors in schools. If they can put metal detectors in courthouses, they can certainly put them in schools. I think, though, PJ, it's probably a matter of money. It's a matter of financing it.
Yeah. Plus, also, I'm not against having metal detectors in schools. I'm not saying it should not happen. It's just every time I hear that, it's a gut punch. I know it's almost a necessity now. I just hate that.
Well, it's tragic that we're here.
Yeah.
It's tragic that we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
District officials in Kenosha say the plans are still in the early stages, and that if this referendum in February doesn't pass, they will not have the money for security upgrades. Because again, our state legislature has been underfunding our schools, certainly our public schools.
I mean, how much money do we
have
for
a long time? I believe it's $4.6 billion. That just came up again.
A lot of surplus, and the money and besides the surplus, it's still money that has been allocated that joint finance is sitting on. And folks, you might say, you guys talk about this a lot. Yeah, we do, because we want everyone listening to never forget that our state legislature, specifically the Joint Finance Committee, is sitting on money to help us.
And they're sitting on money that has been approved.
Yeah. From education to clean water to hospitals.
Yes.
And we have $4.6 billion in surplus. And we have a legislature who says, no, we don't need to invest in our state and make it an attractive place for other people to come to, or keep our children safe, for that matter.
Well, that's just public schools.
Well, yeah, put them in private schools.
They like private schools.
Yeah, put them in private schools.
They're all about the private schools.
Oh, my gosh.
Andrew in Maine, also on the live stream, I thought the Republican-managed legislatures were focused on treating the mental health causes of shootings. Yeah, that's only in the aftermath of a shooting when they say, well, it's never the guns, it's mental health problems. So we need to fund mental health problems. And then when it comes time to do that, they don't do that either.
This country aside, but the day that anything GOP run that looks at mental health, I don't even know what to do with myself. The idea that they would say, let's look at mental health, being serious, putting money towards it, and actually trying to find a solution, because they don't care about mental health. This country doesn't care about mental health, let alone the GOP.
We gave it a lot of lip service.
Oh, yeah.
We do.
We care about it when a celebrity dies. We care about it for about a week, and then we move on. That's it.
855-752-4842 if you would like to join this conversation. Should we have metal detectors in all of our schools? I kind of thought they were already there.
Me too.
Again, I'm far away from school, and I don't even have kids anymore, or friends who have kids who are in school. My friends are grandparents now.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I am.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm waiting for that day. I'm trying to think of who my first friends are. It could be grandparents.
It'll be here before you realize it.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be here before you realize it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But we are talking again about a 16-year-old who was arrested on Monday at Indian Trail High School after investigators say he brought a loaded gun into the school. He made it inside. Fortunately, no one was hurt. This could have had a much different outcome. And I haven't seen a lot more details about this, whether or not this was a mental health issue, if they got tipped off somehow, or if he put something on social media.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just another reminder to parents, too, to keep track of what your kids are saying out there.
I mean, I'm never going to tell someone how to parent, but I mean, I don't even want to tell them to check their kids' bags before they go to school, but it almost seems like that's what you have to do nowadays. You have to restrict their screen time, keep them off social media as much as possible, check their bags before they leave. I hate saying that because I don't want to tell someone how to parent, but
these are the days in which we live.
Yeah.
These are the days.
Yep.
All right. We're going to keep things going and move along. We're going to be talking about, speaking of money,
ooh,
from the state legislature.
Oh, so nothing then.
Some criticism coming from somewhere I would not have expected. That's on the way next. Stay with us. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
She gets mad and she starts to cry. She takes a swing, man. She can't help. She don't mean no harm. She just don't know what else to do about it. Jane says,
Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Sweet Gal B coming to you from our studio in Radio Park here in Racine. You can always join us. You can call. You can text. The number is the same. It's 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. Or leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Also, if you download the Civic Media app, wherever you get your apps, you can call and text directly to the show from the app, and you could do that for all of the shows all across Civic Media, which is pretty cool.
I agree.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we stream Badgers games.
Yep.
Right?
I think so.
Yeah, we stream Badgers games.
Yep.
And I understand the basketball team's doing quite well. We'll talk more about that tomorrow because we'll do some sports tomorrow. But yes, download the Civic Media app. I believe there is an app-specific contest that is coming up.
Oh, boy.
Where you can win wonderful and fabulous prizes that could but probably won't change the course of your entire life.
You can win. I can't win.
I can't win.
I'm talking to them right now.
Yes, you can absolutely win. So download the Civic Media app. It is absolutely free. I find this interesting. Again, from TMJ4 News. Headline reads, Waukesha County Board demands fair share of state funding.
Huh.
Business is hopeful.
Huh.
Now, they were just talking about a 5% sales tax increase. That was in October. They tried to pass it in October. It failed. Intended to address a budget shortfall. Under this proposal, the sales tax would have kicked in on July 1st of next year. Waukesha County Executive Paul Farrow ultimately withdrew the plan to increase the sales tax because that was not very popular. They never are.
No.
They're not. They're never popular, but sometimes, as we have found, when the legislature is not funding mandated programs, mandated meaning you have to do them.
Yes.
You have to do them.
Yes.
And they don't fund those mandated programs, that leaves communities in a bit of a pinch. The Waukesha County Board of Supervisors unanimously passed a resolution asking state lawmakers to look at the lack of funding Waukesha County gets to pay for mandated services. According to a news release, quote, despite being home to a significant portion of the state's population, Waukesha County ranks second to last in per capita state funding among Wisconsin's 72 counties. This lack of state support makes it difficult for the county to meet its residents' needs. Yes. I think a lot of counties and municipalities have felt that.
I think that, yes. When I worked for Racine, we were constantly being told that we weren't getting money.
But you have to do this program.
You have to do programs. You have to do these things. And they made it very clear that they were going to push these programs onto areas that didn't vote for them as a way of saying, ha ha. But now these counties, these municipalities are feeling the pinch, and they are very red strongholds. And I find it adorable that the Waukesha County Board voted a resolution to say, hey, legislature, what's going on, man? And I'm sure the legislature's gonna be like, oh,
We'll get right on that.
Did you hear about Waukesha asked? It's fine. Take care of them. Slip them an extra $200,000.
Wouldn't that be something?
Oh, if they did that, I would be. Oh.
Yeah. Waukesha County Supervisor Jacob LaFontaine says the funding shortfall is a serious issue, which is why he authored the resolution urging state lawmakers to help address Waukesha County's financial gaps. If they don't, this could lead to cuts in law enforcement and the prosecutor's office. And we already have backlogs in our court systems.
These are cuts that bigger municipalities have been making for years now because they've had no choice. And like I said, and I know Waukesha County is a big place, but it's not Madison, it's not Milwaukee, but these areas
it's an important area. Absolutely.
They're feeling the pinch.
Absolutely.
And this sort of behavior is now finally affecting the regular voters and not the liberal cities. So what's the legislature going to do?
Well, and I do want to say that this is one of the reasons that why we harped so hard on wanting to see some changes within the Wisconsin legislature, because it affects all of us.
Yes. Yep.
This lack of funding hurts all of us. I don't care how you vote.
Yeah.
Supervisor Jacob LaFontaine says where we have shortfalls and we're sending $1.5 billion to the states, Meanwhile, the state is sitting on $4.6 billion that is not being used to help anyone at all. It's hoped lawmakers will consider the impact on small businesses and local residents. LaFontaine says the resolution is a way to have open communication with the state.
Do you know what the state's going to tell them to do?
Go away,
No. They're going to go the Robin Voss way.
which is
Put a
referendum.
referendum on your ballot in spring and raise your taxes. I won't do that.
But they just failed to do that.
Well, it's not his problem. It's not his problem. He won't raise your taxes. He will never raise your taxes. If you want to raise your own taxes, that's not his problem. He supports freedom. But that's probably gonna be Robin's solution is try again. Raise those taxes, raise those fees.
Laura from Wisconsin Rapids texting and listening on WFHR. This country is proving it doesn't care about kids either. We need common sense gun control laws, better public school funding, free lunches for all. Before I believe otherwise, we were talking earlier about Kenosha, but I think, again, it's about funding things. It's about paying for things.
I want us to stop talking about I want to start using this term. It's about investing. It's about taking that money that we have and investing in our states, in our state,
In our kids.
in our kids, in our counties, in our municipalities, in our police, in our fire, in our prosecutors, in our schools. This is about investment. That is what we need to talk about because that investment builds a return. And if you want a case study, Minnesota.
Yeah.
So let's stop looking at it as like, oh, we're spending so much money. No, we are investing money in the long term and looking for a return on that. People moving here with their kids to start new lives, get jobs, those kinds of things. Living in safe neighborhoods with good school
And
systems.
clean water.
With clean water.
All
Wow,
those things.
what an amazing idea. It's almost like we couldn't do it if we wanted to. Oh, it's right. We have a lot of money to clean our water.
$4.6 billion. But it's Robin's money. It's Robin's money. All right, news is coming up next when we return. Let's switch out Hegseth for DeSantis. Interesting. That's all on the way. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll be right back. Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park here in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to talk a little weather. We do have some snow coming in, maybe a little rain, and some super high winds, depending upon where you are. Brittany Merlot will be here for her regular slot tomorrow. Give us an update. But I want to give you a little heads up about that if you're going to be on the roads a little bit later on this afternoon, so stick around for that. Right now, though, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, is under a lot of heat because of reports of his alleged sexual assaults and personal misconduct. Married 3 times. Cheated on the first 2.
Well, that just sounds like you're acting like the guy in charge.
Well, there's that. But now it's not looking so good for him as far as getting confirmed.
Oh, now it isn't.
Now it's not.
Now we've passed.
There's still a chance.
Now we've passed the point of most no return.
Well, he claimed this morning that Democrats are smearing him with fake anonymous BS stories because they were afraid of him. Now, I think it's important to point out that a woman who attended a GOP event in California in 2016 is the one who accused him of rape. And then he settled with her.
Yeah.
He settled with her.
And that was, you said 2016?
2017.
2017. So that was 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We just started talking about this about
a couple weeks ago.
So yeah, that seems to line up with his way of thinking. It's the liberal BS.
Yeah. He's also facing allegations of financial mismanagement, personal misconduct, including appearing drunk on the job. And while he was running 2 different nonprofits, Vets for Freedom and Concerned Veterans for America. Big article in the New Yorker magazine with a lot of these allegations and how he was essentially shoved out of those 2 organizations because he was incompetent. He took his team to a strip club, allegedly. Took his team to a strip club, got so loaded he tried to get up on stage to dance with the strippers and they had to pull him out of the strip club. This seems like a big security concern for the head of the Department of Defense. No?
Well, I mean, yeah, well, yes, absolutely. But also just the notion of like, this is liberal BS smear tactics.
You settled a court case.
No, man, this is just you. This is just you. And
your past catching up with you.
Yep. Wait, do I hear somebody knocking on the door right now, Jane? Are those consequences?
Well, not yet.
I mean, I'm not even talking about jail or anything. Like, I'm just saying not getting the job is a start for me. That my bar is that low.
Multiple outlets reporting that Donald Trump is in serious talks now with Ron DeSantis to step in and become his replacement candidate should Pete Hegseth be pushed aside. Although the New York Times says that DeSantis is not a shoo-in for the spot. Do they not hate each other anymore?
No, of course they don't.
No, now they can use each other.
Yeah, and just like a few others, he gets to overpower them, if you will. These are people who tried to take shots at the king. They came for the king.
True.
They came for the crown.
And they missed.
And now Donald Trump can put them in positions of power and constantly Bigfoot them, constantly overshadow them, and make them look like fools because that's what he's going to do to his enemies. And his friends, which whatever that means in his world, is, I mean, honestly, Ron DeSantis is a vet. He served for nearly 20 years in the Navy. But this notion of it just seems like there's a grab bag with names in there. And they
try this one.
But they're all, once again, these are all names that, like, once again, Ron DeSantis, a name we know, a name we're familiar with. Reboot of The Apprentice government style. That's all this is to me, period.
Interesting point. 855-752-4842 if you want to join the conversation. Bill from Oconomowoc is on the line. Good morning, Bill. Thank you for joining us. What do you want to say about this?
I love it when you're talking about the Fox host Heggeseth and his qualifications. So is the bar that you need 36 felonies, sexual predator charges, tax problems, paying porn stars? How many felonies do you need before nobody accepts you?
That's
Nobody.
yeah. I don't know that there's a limit, Bill. Peter Navarro. Remember Peter Navarro, who just got out of prison?
He got out of prison and got on the plane and went right to the RNC to speak on stage.
And now he's joined the White House.
Yeah,
he's joined the upcoming administration.
Yeah.
He just got out of jail.
There's no, I mean,
I think that's actually more of a plus.
remember the whole GOP thing of personal responsibility?
All the best people?
All the best people, the bootstraps, all the things, that's gone. Now it's just, how can you lick the boot the best? How do you hold up dear leader the best? It's not about who's best for the job. And by the way, Bill, let's clarify something here. Pete Hegseth was a Fox and Friends weekend host. Oofers.
Yeah. And Bill, it was so funny. I saw one of the Fox people saying this morning, well, he filled in for all of us. Obviously, he's qualified. Well, he's qualified as a fill-in host. That doesn't qualify him to head the Department of Defense. Are you kidding me?
By their standard, I can be on Fox right now.
By that standard, you could be the head of the Department of Defense.
That's very true, guys. I gotta go. I got some things to do. Calvin, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, I just wanted to add, Jane already brought up his alleged drinking problem, but that alleged drinking problem is coming from people he worked with at Fox News.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why certain members of Fox, I don't know.
Maybe they're like, take him. Go ahead, take him.
You guys can have him.
You can have him. I hear there's an open bar in the Pentagon.
Andrew texting in, today I learned that facts are being relabeled as liberal smear campaigns.
Yes.
Yeah, facts are very uncomfortable things.
Yeah. The main thing about a fact, don't ever forget, folks, doesn't care about your feelings.
No, they don't.
They do not care about your feelings at all.
Interesting, considering DeSantis, and again, who, as you pointed out, Greg, did serve as a Navy lawyer in Iraq and the Guantanamo Bay detention facilities, was on an earlier list of potential defense secretary candidates that were presented to Trump, but Trump obviously ultimately went with Hegseth. But now, as his nomination has faltered, they're looking at the list again, and DeSantis is among the top choices. Now, this is a tricky thing Ron DeSantis cannot run for another term as governor in Florida.
Correct.
So once this is up, he's done in that spot.
And who doesn't have a job right now?
Oh, that would be, I can absolutely see that happening. So DeSantis leaves.
Yep.
Matt Gaetz runs for governor of Florida, and he would win.
Florida's own favorite son. Florida's favorite son, just back from his latest Botox session.
Eyebrow lift.
Eyebrow lift, yes. No, that's exactly what I think is going to happen, is that Ron DeSantis doesn't have to worry about anything. He gets to leave office. He gets to go on and be. Honestly, I would have, if I was Trump, I would have picked him for AG, but that's just me.
DeSantis?
Yeah, I would have picked him for AG. But yeah, it's he leaves, I think he can go through the process, because he's mostly vetted anyways by running for president. And apart from saying real dumb things and yelling at children for wearing their masks, it's kind of a out of the park home run for Trump, because it's Ron DeSantis, and there isn't a lot of controversy there that would hold up the GOP, I should say.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, true.
He's not from what I understand, he's not a partier. He's not a womanizer. He's not.
He doesn't have that kind of stuff in his lurking in his background.
His mother doesn't write letters about him that says my son is a terrible person.
And then get on Fox this morning and say, I regretted it 2 hours later. I never should have said that.
Yeah.
Calvin.
Yeah, and it almost makes you question if this is purposeful. Like when you go back to the Matt Gaetz proposal, let's put up someone insane that no one will like. So that way, the next person we put up, no matter who it is, seems rational.
And that's where I felt with
Kash Patel.
No, not Kash Patel.
I definitely think that.
Well,
with Kash
Patel he is, in my opinion, insane. He is not a well human being. But no, this is what it was for me with Matt Gaetz to Pam Bondi.
Yes.
Pam Bondi,
who's not much better.
Not much better. Not at all, actually. Not one bit. But she has far less visible baggage than Matt Gaetz has. She's at least not being investigated for interstate sex trafficking
with teenagers.
Exactly. So yeah, I think there's a couple of these positions that are going to be filled in with, second stringers, but they're really the ones they wanted in the first place.
That could be.
But once again, these look at across the board, all the individuals he's proposing. These are all people who are already camera ready. These are not new individuals. We see this happen all the time with presidents. They Health and Human Services. Who is this person? Oh, they taught at Yale for 25 years. No, these are all TV ready,
TV people,
prime time available. Go to the studio and have your great interview and say the weirdest things on earth, as long as you're propping up dear leader.
Ron DeSantis does run the risk of getting fired in 2 months.
Well, yeah, I think they all.
Right?
I mean, I think they all run the risk of being fired because he will not be outshone.
Well, ever. And the turnover in the first Trump administration was head spinning.
Yeah,
it really was. I mean, he went through people like I go through Kleenex when I have a sinus infection.
Yeah, I mean, it was 44 cabinet members.
Yes.
And 40 of them said he was not fit to be the president.
Yes.
Most presidents in their 4-year term do not have 40 cabinet members.
Interesting times.
Overachiever.
Is that what it is?
Sure.
Shooting for the moon.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that if DeSantis, because again, this is going to be fascinating to see how this Hegseth thing plays out. Somebody on Fox and Friends this morning actually said that he thinks that a lot of senators will feel for Pete Hegseth because they hate their ex-wives too, essentially.
It's amazing what you can just say nowadays. It's amazing. There's the thoughts that you think you can say.
They just come right out.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say those words. I want to see what happens.
Because I can.
Yep. No consequences. None.
Well, we will keep you updated as things develop.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth already this morning saying, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to give up.
No.
And I think he's meeting with Jody Ernst of Iowa.
Oh, my God.
So we'll see. We'll see what that does. But Mom says he's a change man. And I'm not saying that can't happen. People can change.
But one of the things that come with these kinds of life-altering changes when it comes to, whether it's you are recovering addiction or just trying to get your life together, the family side of it, something that always comes with that, if you're true about your journey about becoming better as a human, is humility. And this man has zero humility.
Well, and I also, it was always my understanding as well, is that you have to own your past mistakes.
Yes. And yes, you have to own your past mistakes. You have to have that humility. And if he was half a good human, he would say, I'm not going to put my family through this. All these things are coming out. I can't do that.
Is it worth it?
I got to fix this. But he's not. This is all about him. This is all about the spotlight. And frankly, bro, if you're watching, and I know you are, Pete, go see a therapist.
Calvin.
Yeah, I'm not remembering the position or the man's name, but there was someone who stepped down and I hadn't even stepped out of the running and I hadn't even heard any dirt about him. He was just like, yeah, no, I don't want that.
He was with the DEA guy?
Yes, that's who it was.
Yeah, and the reason why they got rid of him is because he actually arrested a pastor who was holding services during COVID lockdown. And that's why he withdrew, because MAGA was going crazy about that. So, all right. When we return, we're going to talk a little bit about the weather. We do have some weather coming our way, so stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the vast, statewide, countrywide, potentially global Civic Media Radio Network.
Come on, baby, from a big lost land. Come on, baby, don't you fall behind. That's it, baby, now you're looking good. You're doing the switcheroo like I knew you could. Oh, switcheroo.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calviente on the board, coming to you from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Jabba the Musk continues to actively ruin. You can always join us over at Blue Sky.
Ooh.
We're over there too. You
We're
just
there-
want to check it out.
I don't think we have a show account.
We do not
there.
have a show account.
No.
No, but we do both have our personal pages
Yep.
over there.
And that makes Putz de Leon sad.
It does make him sad. Blue Sky's growing.
It is.
It is growing. It's a different vibe over there. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you may want to just drop in.
Yeah.
Drop in. Check it out. Take a look. We do have some weather coming our way.
Ugh.
And I want to give you a little bit of a heads up. We have Cindy from Appleton is on the line. Good morning, Cindy. What's going on? Thanks for joining us.
Well, I'm just wondering because the felon-elect is putting all these wonderful people into the cabinet positions, and he's planning on dismantling the FBI. And I'm just wondering, once he dismantles the FBI, if he gets assassinated, who's going to do the investigation?
Well, I'm sure. I mean, it'll probably be the Secret Service, along with the CIA. Right? I mean, I don't think they're going to dismantle it to the point where there's no FBI, there's no federal police arm. There still will be something, I believe.
Oh,
just
absolutely,
will
because they want to use the enforcement arm of the FBI to go against their perceived enemies.
Yeah, it'll
So
be
they're just-
toothless.
Yeah,
but-
they're just going to remove people who would object to potentially illegal things
yeah.
the incoming administration would want to do. Don't you think, Cindy?
I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder because a king doesn't necessarily need anything but maybe a couple of bodyguards, right?
Well, I think he wants to use this as a tool of revenge. So I just don't see him completely dismantling these organizations that he can use against people.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cindy. Always appreciate you checking in. Thank you for doing what you do. She's a school bus driver. She's a saint. Okay, back to the weather.
Yeah.
National Weather Service says bursts of light to moderate snow are expected across southern Wisconsin throughout this afternoon. It's expected to peak in south central Wisconsin between noon and 4 p.m., and then it will be hitting us in the southeastern portion of the state primarily between 2 and 6. Not looking at a lot of snow, at least around here. Snow accumulations should stay under half an inch, but it's the winds that could really cause visibility problems, especially during the evening commute tonight. So keep that in mind. Remember how to drive in snow. We've done this before,
Yep.
but just be careful.
Doesn't mean you have to. I mean, it doesn't even mean you have to drive the speed limit. You can drive a little bit under the speed limit. Guys, and anybody with trucks, all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive.
Physics still apply to you.
Well, physics still apply to you, but also people around you. Just know that your driving has an impact on how other people drive down the road. It's not illegal to care.
Weather Service predicting a chance of rain and snow showers between 1 and 3 in Milwaukee, and then switching over to scattered snow showers later in the afternoon and evening. I heard Brittany on with Pat Kreitlow this morning talking about the winds, though. We're going to get like some 40-mile-an-hour winds,
Oh, yeah.
50-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible later on this afternoon. So we do have a wind advisory in effect for all of southern and most of central Wisconsin. That kicks in 2 o'clock today until midnight. And then it's going to get really cold. It's winter.
I know. It's not, though. Not yet. Not for a couple weeks.
It's kind of winter.
It's fall still. I demand at least a few more 40, something in the 40s days.
That could still happen. It's possible.
That'd be nice.
What was the magical thing you were talking about that you keep in your car
Oh, yes.
that you think everyone should have?
Yes. Actually, let me get the exact name of it.
And then we can put this in the show notes too.
I will put this in the show notes. I will be using an Amazon link. Some people don't like Amazon. I'm only using it as a reference point. You can try to find it on your own. Do your thing, Jelly Bean. I don't care. Don't yell at me. We use what's called an Ava Pow 6,000 amp car battery jump starter. And this is for gas cars only. It is essentially, you plug it in, you charge up this big battery pack,
Okay.
and then if you are stranded, You use this battery pack to jump your car. You don't have to have someone else there.
Oh, that's nice.
And we found out about this when Bridget's car wasn't starting one night. We called AAA. Also get AAA. AAA is amazing. I'm not endorsed by either products.
However, we're open for sponsorship.
I'm open, dude. If I could talk my way into a free AAA account, oh my goodness, I've been with you for 30 years, people.
We're available.
But he came out of his truck, and I expect him to pull out this big thing or
Jumper cables.
or
Sure.
hook it onto it. It was this product, and it looks like, it's about. I can't even tell
Looks
you.
like a little space heater.
It looks like a
actually.
thermos. It looks like the size of a thermos.
Yeah.
And he pulled it out, hooked it up, put it on the car, started her car up immediately. He goes, I can jump my truck with it.
He can jump his tow
A
truck
tow
with
truck
this.
with it. I think it's a great investment. I know I saw one today for $150 with a $50 off coupon. I don't know if it's a Cyber Monday deal.
And you said too that it holds a charge for like 4 months.
Yeah, if you charge it up, it will hold a charge for months if you're not using it. You can also use it as a flashlight. You can also, there's some other functions to it, but I've used it 5 times. 2 of those times for other people. It is paid for itself. I will put this in the show notes. You should have one in your car, especially in the winter months. Just period.
Good Christmas gift.
There it is.
Be thinking. All right, news coming up next. Stay with us. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same. It's 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up at 11:33, Dr. Laura Hanks will be here for public Cervix announcement. There is a case before the Supreme Court that started this morning regarding trans care and trans care for kids. I believe this is the state of Tennessee, and Dr. Hanks has worked with the trans community and has, I'm sure, opinions about this.
I'm very nervous about the Supreme Court taking up this topic.
Yes. And from some of the dialogue I've seen so far this morning, it seems like Samuel Alito is pretty much coming out not necessarily hearing both sides, shall we say.
Oh, so he's already told us what he's going to do, huh?
It seems like he's pretty firmly siding with the state of Tennessee and against trans care. So what a shock. I know, but
I don't want to say against the law, but aren't you just not supposed to do that?
When you're a Supreme Court justice, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But these are different days now.
Apparently. I mean, honestly, like, I don't even know. That makes me really mad, because after that, that's done. Because what are you going to, like, you just have to wait until they're gone to try to bring it back around.
Well,
Sorry.
and now, again, Donald Trump's going to have the opportunity to replace.
Oh, yeah. He's going to get at least one.
At least one more. Yeah.
Two.
Yeah, two. So we will keep you updated on that, but we'll talk about that with Dr. Hanks coming up at 11:33. And if you have questions about trans care, I highly encourage you to send them in.
Please.
She will absolutely answer them. If you have a question about trans care and how this works, send it in to Jane Says, JANESAYS, Jane Says, at civicmedia.us. I'm sure she would have no problem answering any questions you might have.
And we will, please let us know if this is a private matter. We will get the information to her directly and try to set up a pipeline between the two of you.
Yes.
This is not something we have to put on the air if you don't want it.
Absolutely.
But we can definitely be a conduit if we can help.
Absolutely. All right. We are very excited to be joined by our guest taking time out while he is on vacation.
That's right.
He's the president of the Wisconsin Farmers Union. Darin Van Rudin joins us on the phone. Good morning, Darin. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I am doing well.
Thank you so much for joining us as you're taking a little time off. We really appreciate it. But we did want to, you're going to be joining us once a month now, Darin, and I'm very excited about that. We really want to learn and appreciate and give shout outs to our farmers because it's such an important part of the Wisconsin economy. And you are obviously in the middle of it. You're the president of the Wisconsin Farmers Union. So let's talk first and foremost about the state convention that's coming up in just a couple weeks. What will you be anticipating is going to happen at that convention, December 13th through the 15th?
Yeah, so our convention, is December 13th through the 15th. Going to be at the Chula Vista Resorts in Wisconsin Dells, and it's the time of year that our members all get together and talk about the policy issues that they want to face for the next year. So that's a little bit longer process too. We usually start that in September already, where the counties and the locals get together and talk about the issues that they want to see talked about, and then the first part of November, our county presidents get together for a day-long meeting to go over the policy book that's been recommended by the Policy Review Committee. And then ultimately it ends up at our state convention here coming up in a couple weeks, where that'll be setting the directives of the organization for the next year. So, this year we've got quite a few issues that are kind of got discussed quite a bit. One of them was wolves. Another one is digesters. And then for quite a few years now, water has been an issue. And of course, over the past couple of years now, the PFAS situation has added to that list of concerns on water quality. And then quantity too has been an issue over the years. So we've got, pretty good line of things to talk about. We also do a few educational sessions in the morning and afternoon on Saturday. In the morning, we're going to be talking about the seed industry and some of the corporate monopolies there that are really controlling a lot of that, and how there's getting to be fewer and fewer choices for our farmers to actually look at seed varieties to buy. One thing that's kind of a positive there within our organization is we do have a few members that are starting some smaller seed cooperatives and trying to make sure that seed varieties are available and have many varieties available too. And then also Saturday morning, looking at owning your land and what that looks like, and as we're getting to, it seems like more parcels of land are becoming under control of fewer and fewer people. Can we make that land more diversely owned, and how that might look too? In the afternoon, we got a session on what farming might look like over the next half a dozen years or so, and especially with the change in administration again, and some of the things that came out during the election process, there's that concern on what could be happening. So overall, I think we've got a lot of interesting topics, but certainly looking forward to the discussion of our members on our policy and what the direction is going to look like for 2025.
Boy, you're covering a lot.
Yeah.
that's a lot of stuff. Is wolf predation a big problem, Darin, for Wisconsin farmers?
Yeah, especially our most northern members up there. We have some members that have seen 15 to 20% of their calves lost in a spring during calving season, and due to wolves. And we have another member up there too that's put 8-foot fence all the way around their whole farm to keep wolves out, and that could be something that could actually make the farm go bankrupt too, because that's not cheap to put that fence up.
No doubt.
But yet when you look at what losing on calves, that's your future too. So we really need to look at something, because we got members that are very strong on both sides there. Certainly the ones that are losing animals for predation, but then also those that don't want any wolves killed at all. So we have to try to figure out what that medium can look like, or if there's programs that could be made available to farmers to have that protection and keep the wolf population safe and growing, or else make sure that we've got something that farmers can continue to make a living on.
Darin, another thing you brought up was PFAS, and we've talked about that a lot, both on this show and as a network, the importance of getting that under control. What do you assume or predict that talks about that topic will be at the convention this month?
Yeah, I certainly think it's going to be one of our special orders of business, and then it's more looking at how do we make sure that the farm community is not become the target of everybody as the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly there's situations out there where it could be that, but how do we get to a solution of making sure that, number one, we can control or eliminate future sites that are going to be there, but also making sure that everybody's responsible about their actions and doing what they can to help clean up the problem. And so does that include state and federal programs that would have dollars made available for sites that have been contaminated and can be cleaned up or at least controlled? So lots of different options out there. What our members will come up with, I'm sure, will be a soup full of different ideas.
It'll be an interesting stew.
That's for sure.
If you're just joining us, Darin von Rudin is our guest. He's the president of the Wisconsin Farmers Union, and he's going to be joining us once a month going forward as we head into 2025. You had mentioned seed monopolies, Darin, and I had never thought about that. I certainly know that that's a problem within animal processing, because that seems to be pretty much controlled by one or two companies. I never anticipated that, but it makes perfect sense that there's seed monopolies. That's just got to be crushing for farmers.
Yeah, it is. And, and as that process is continuing to grow, it's getting to be where the chemical companies and the seed companies have the same owners. So if you buy one particular seed brand, then you almost have to buy the chemicals from the chemical company that seed company owns, or that ownership can be vice versa, not necessarily the seed company owning the chemicals might own the seed company. And back 30 years ago, there was 8 to 15 major players in the seed industry. Today we're down to about 3,
Oh my
and
gosh.
the majority are worldwide seed sellers too. So it's not just that they're here in the U.S., they're really worldwide. And so having that diversity and options for farmers to buy different seeds is really becoming a bigger issue. So that's why it's quite exciting that we've got a few members that are forming seed cooperatives that are starting on smaller grains versus the larger commodities. But if we can break into that market, can we get back into making the seed and soybean industry a little bit more diverse too?
That's so interesting. How do you even begin to start a seed cooperative?
Well, yeah, it's a process first you got to get some folks that are interested in that process, and then the dollars is really the biggest thing there.
Sure.
Can you match some funds that you can have storage space, and then so the seed production process does cost quite a bit. Just the equipment alone to put seed in the ground can be quite expensive. But then, having the varieties that are going to be matched up for the different soil types and all the different weather events that happen, that's a challenge in itself. But certainly, certain individuals and groups have put time and effort and committed to making sure that they can work that process along. And then just having the diversity helps, especially local areas where these seed co-ops are at. Seems to be, an interest of the local farmers to keep things expanding and diversifying.
Darin, we got a break coming up. We will be right back. We're going to talk about the ever-languishing Farm Bill and see where that is. Darin Van Rudin is our guest, the president of the Wisconsin Farmers Union. Keep it right here. This is Matenaer On Air, coming to you on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Farmer John. I'm in love with your daughter.
Good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and the Board Lord coming to you from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text at 855-752-4842, or leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. We are joined by the president of the Wisconsin Farmers Union, Darin von Rudin, is on the phone with us. And right before the break, Darin, we were talking about these seed company monopolies, and I just want to reiterate, monopolies are only good for, I don't know, those corporations and their shareholders. It sure doesn't seem like the monopolies do the rest of us much good.
Yeah, and there's studies out there that show that too, is, the fewer folks that are involved in any cycle of any business really just makes it harder for the in our situation, the farmers, the producers, to not only buy product but also sell it too. And when you have a diverse economic situation out there, which is that business model, it seems to be the competition keeps everybody from the consumer back to the farmer somewhat happy. But when you do have that monopoly issue, it's basically one or two winners, and the rest of us are left holding the basket.
Yeah, definitely. It's unfortunate. We were talking also about the state convention that's coming up December 13th through the 15th. That's going to happen in Wisconsin Dells. And I'm sure you're hearing a lot about the Farm Bill, which is still languishing. What's the discussion you're hearing about that, Darin?
Yeah, certainly what's happening in D.C. right now with the administration change and looking at new Secretary of Agriculture, looking at that process, who thinks they want to get the Farm Bill passed because they don't have to worry about the next election cycle, and those that do, it's looking more and more like there's probably just going to be an extension to the current Farm Bill. Right now we actually don't have a Farm Bill. It expired back in September 30th, and we're sitting there really with nothing, but things really don't kick in until January 1 of 2025 if we don't get an extension here, in the next 10 days of legislative session that's happening in D.C. And, and all things are pointing to right now, the House and the Senate's versions are too far apart, and they don't have enough hours in a day to get it together and get something in front of the president. So that means an extension that'll most likely happen, and then we'll deal with it next year. And of course, next year is an off election year, so nobody wants to spend any money at all on those years, which is not a good thing for the Farm Bill, because that means cuts instead of keeping the programs that we currently have.
Well, and explain what this would mean if this extension would not even get kicked, even if they wouldn't get that done, that would have some devastating consequences for Wisconsin's farmers.
Yeah, well, it might actually help in one aspect, because it would go back to the original laws of Farm Bill law that was put in place back in 1937. And it would mean that farmers would have to be paid parity prices. And so that would have a devastating effect on the consumers, because, right now farmers generally are receiving 20 to 25% of the parity price. So for instance, dairy milk, a gallon of milk that we're currently getting at $3 a gallon, or maybe $4, depending on what part of the state you live in. You could see a doubling or a tripling of that price if the Farm Bill didn't get signed, because at that point, then the farm economy, certainly we'd see that influx coming here, but that has to come from someplace. So how can we, continue that process that way? We really need to make sure that the Farm Bill is there so that, number one, farmers have protection, but number two, consumers have protection too. And without it, we're really both in trouble, because people simply won't be able to afford to eat food, and then we'll have mass overproduction really, and then you lose more farmers than you currently do, because all of a sudden the processors and the distributors can't afford to buy our product, and then it sits in the bulk tanks or sits in the storage sheds.
And this is one of the reasons why, Darin, we want to have you on the show on a regular basis. Things like this, when people hear farmers bill, the Farm Bill, they might not think, well, that's farmers. What does that have to do with me? This has everything to do with everyone. It includes farmers, the consumers, the people. This affects us all if this overdue by a year bill is not passed. So we just really thank you for being on the show and talking to us about these things.
Absolutely, because again, good Lord, if a gallon of milk would go up to $8 a gallon, the shrieking would never stop. And unfortunately, they're going to come and they're going to be shrieking at our dairy farmers, not the people in Washington who didn't get their job done, right?
Right, yeah. It's always easiest to point the finger at the person at the bottom, and instead of holding people accountable for their actions that have put the farming industry, in the bad spotlight. Which farmers generally want to make sure that we provide safe, adequate food supply for everybody out there, and I talked to a lot of farmers that would just love to work for basically nothing if they could have that time off and have a few of the other fun activities that are going on out there. But of course, capitalism requires us to make money, so that means that we have to charge for the products that we produce. But overwhelmingly, there's a lot of farmers that just really love what they do and would do it on a regular basis without any complaints. But when you can't have any of the fun things too once in a while, that's where the economic system we're in is really causing the hardships that we're seeing.
Absolutely. Darin von Rudin is the president of the Wisconsin Farmers Union. Thank you so much for taking some time out for us, Darin. We will talk to you next month. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to you too, and look forward to next month.
Thanks, Darin.
See you in December, Darin. News is coming up next. When we return, Dr. Laura Hanks will be here for public Cervix announcement. Keep it here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm going out tonight. Best believe I'm still bejeweled when I walk in the room. I can still make the whole place.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Sweet Kelby on the board, coming to you from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that used to be Twitter. She joins us every Wednesday at this time for public Cervix announcement, but we talk all things health. So if you ever have a question for her, please email that to Jane Says, Janesays, Jane Says at civicmedia.us. Dr. Laura Hanks is here. Good morning, Dr. Hanks. How are you? I like the Christmas tree in the background.
Good morning. We're crazy about Christmas here. That's actually our that's our bird tree. It only has bird ornaments on it.
Oh, because your husband works with birds.
Yeah. Again,
I will leave. Okay,
everywhere.
guys, I'm out of here on this one. Sorry, birds are being talked about. I'm out.
We know how I love birds. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that he gets his own bird tree. Everyone should have a tree of their own. Absolutely. One of the reasons I was looking forward to talking to you today, because this is a group of people that you work with. You work within the trans community, and the U.S. Supreme Court hearing oral arguments today in a major case over transgender health care for minors. This is focusing on Tennessee's ban on the treatment for minors in their state. Justice Samuel Alito asking lawyers representing the families who are challenging this ban, wouldn't this lead to endless litigation based on determinations by lay judges regarding complicated medical issues? Well, you guys did that with the abortion issue. I don't know what Alito was talking about.
Is he talking about the Chevron doctrine being taken away so the judges make the decisions instead of specialists?
Yeah, no, he didn't mention that. But I find that interesting. But the Tennessee's whole point, apparently, Tennessee Solicitor General Matthew Rice says the law makes a reference to a minor appreciating their sex as a recognition that some people regret the treatments. So I would like you to talk about regret. People who do go through perhaps hormone blockers and things like that. Because that's, first of all, it starts with counseling. I want to make that clear, right? If your child comes to you and they're in 4th grade and says, I have questions, you don't take them to the doctor and say, we need surgery. It starts with counseling, correct?
Exactly. Always with counseling. And there's so many conversations around this. And we've talked about that before, that this is like many, many conversations with multiple providers, social work, your primary care, maybe an OBGYN, so you're having, this conversation several times before any medical treatment, and especially surgical treatment. So I was listening for the last 2 hours. I've been listening to the arguments and like screaming at my screen. Like,
I'm
just
sure.
because I think
that is
like
wrong.
The thing that like really, and to be clear, there is, I will say there is still a paucity of a lot of data when it comes to transgender care, especially with minors. So I'll give you that like there's still lots of research that needs to be done. However, what really was grinding my gears was that they kept saying in the arguments, the lawyer, whoever it was that was talking to the judges, kept saying testosterone is irreversible. If you give a little girl testosterone, it's irreversible. And that is something that we just don't know yet. And there's there are a few papers out there. Some say that patients that have ovaries that have been on long-term testosterone and then gone off it have had the same successful egg retrieval as people that have not been on testosterone. So that's a paper that came out in 2020 that said that. And in 2021, there was another paper that said the opposite, that if people on long-term testosterone had poorer egg retrieval, more DNA damage and things like that. So that is a question, but to just blanket statement, to say that to the judge, like it's irreversible, it's or not irreversible. He kept saying it causes infertility. It causes infertility, and that's like the biggest thing that I see is that patients think if they're on testosterone, they also, and they're having intercourse with someone that could be get them pregnant, they need to be on a birth control too, because testosterone is not 100% causes infertility. Like that's like, we know that.
Sure.
So like, you can still potentially ovulate or have menstrual bleeding if you have a uterus and ovaries. So, when he kept saying infertility, that was just driving me nuts. So again, not only is there not a lot of data in this area, there's a lot of cherry picking of data in these arguments that's happening. And like the CAS review is one that gets brought up a lot and has a lot of misinformation in it. And so they went into that a little bit about like, well, you picked this study, you know, like, so, but they don't get into the weeds as much as we do, which is a little bit frustrating to say the least.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So when we talk about people who regret having had this treatment, do we have any numbers on this specifically?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Sorry, I kind of went off on my own tangent to answer your question.
Tangent away.
I wanted to be
no
a politician once, so like let me answer the question I wanted you to ask me.
No, you'd be terrible at it, doctor, because you'd be like, no, you're wrong and stupid, and then you never get elected.
She's out. So that's another one that I think that there's numbers, but that is such a moving target because there are some people that, and again, the language around this is people don't really like the word detransition. I like the word gender journey because I think that at different times in your life, you are going to experience feeling different genders. Like I think when I was growing up, I was very much a tomboy. Like in the 90s, that's what you call it, what you said. It was that you're
Right.
tomboy. I never wanted to wear skirts. I only wanted to wear pants and ties. I never thought of myself as a male, but I was very much like not feminine. And now
You
I
weren't a
feel like I
girly
love
girl.
wearing my, well, now I'm like sparkles everywhere, like high heel, like I love it, So I think that it's a journey. And I think that if we all kind of reflect on how we feel at different times in our lives and who we're around in the environment, it's gonna change. So I think that it's a little unfair to say like, what is the exact percentage of people that quote detransition or regret their decision? There is really interesting data that came out. There's a U.S. trans survey that people can look up. It's called the U.S. trans survey. They did it in 2015 and then they did it again in 2022. They had an open online survey to anyone that identified as non-binary or trans to fill out, and they got 92,000 responses, which is so that's like a good study. Again,
Sample.
there's the part that it's online, and so there's recall by and stuff like that, but still that's a good n, right? So in that, people, let's pull up, I sent these stats to Jane earlier. Sorry everyone, I don't have every stat memorized, believe it or not.
Shocking.
I know doctors aren't perfect either. So when they asked people about their life satisfaction with receiving hormone treatment, 84% said they were a lot satisfied and 14% said a little more satisfied. So only 1 or less than 1% said they were not satisfied. So I would kind of say from that, people that so that can vary. Does that mean that they were detransitioning or didn't actually feel it fit their gender, or they just weren't happy with the effects that they got from there? At any rate, I would put that number around like 1% from that. But I think that that's like really huge to know, like people that get hormone therapy to help them associate with a gender that they feel that they are overall 84 plus 14% satisfied, like that's huge. And they talked a little bit in the Supreme Court. Another thing that was driving me nuts is like the risk of suicide. And they talked about how transgender people do have a higher rate of suicide. We know that. But once they receive medical treatment or surgical treatment, their chance of suicide, of going through with suicide, is much lower. So the chance of suicidality is still there, but the chance of actually going through with it is much lower if they're receiving these treatments. So again, you can very much like those nuances, you can you can say, oh, well, the suicide rate is the same or it goes up or something like that. And it's like, no, because that population, because they have a harder life because of the arguments that they have to fight
Right.
for this right,
Right.
that they're, gonna have harder mental health, or have issues with mental health. So, again, that's just one way that you can see how they can, the other side can kind of like pick and choose
Well,
how
and
they want
sometimes
to interpret the data.
sometimes it's a sin of omission. We just don't mention the parts of the studies that we don't like that contradict
Exactly.
our point, correct?
Exactly.
And one of the things, Doctor, I think about, like, not having all the stats in front of us, the fact that the sheer number of people who identify in this country as trans is very small. It's like a percent
Exactly.
and a half. So you take that 1.5% and you say, how many of those individuals, I don't even like using the word regret because I feel like they've weaponized the word regret. Eric Hovde did that in his speeches. They're weaponizing that word regret to say, well, you see, we were right. All these kids who are trans now can't go back. It's like, well, you're talking about a percentage of a small percentage that you're not even correct about because you don't really care about these kids that you're using as
as an example.
As
exactly
example, but like I want to use a kind of almost more a violent term. Like you're using them as a weapon, as a target. And so like if someone ever says to you like, well, all these trans people, well, how many people do you think are trans in this country? Like 1%. And when you talk about detransitioning, I love what you say about gender journey. It's an even smaller number than that.
Exactly. I think that it is actually 0.6% identify as transgender. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Might need to fact check me on that. In the US. So something the one time I did clap when I was listening to the arguments, Justice Sotomayor it pointed out that exactly. She's like, okay, so we're talking about a less than 1% of the population. And the argument had been, well, it'll go to the democratic process, if it gets to that in order for them to get the medication. She was like, I find it really hard to believe that the democratic process is going to be fair to a part of the population that's less than 1%. And I was like, Queen, yes, that's the whole problem.
and I might be wrong about this, Dr. Hanks, but I saw something in the last couple of days that some of these treatments that they use for trans people are applicable in other health applications. Is that accurate?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Some of the medications that people take in order to help their transition are also applied in other applications.
So this is a lot of
transition, not just for transitioning.
Yeah, so that was a lot of this conversation is when is it appropriate to give someone testosterone? So, a little a boy that doesn't is going through or is not going through puberty or like wants chest hair. And I actually sat on a panel once where and not to like stereotype, but there was this old white guy in the back and he was kind of making me nervous and he it was all about trans care and he raised his hand. I was like, uh-oh. And he goes, well, I'm just confused because I'm a primary physician and I prescribe hair growth treatment for balding men. Isn't that gender affirming care? And I was like, slow clap for the old white guy. Like, yes, sir, it is. So he was just like, what's the conversation? And I was like, exactly.
Dr. Laura Hanks joins us every Wednesday at 11:33 for public Cervix announcement. If you ever have a question for the doctor regarding anything, send it into janesays@civicmedia.us. Thank you so much, Dr. Hanks. We'll see you next Wednesday. Stay with us. We'll wrap it up with This Shouldn't Be a Thing, Remains of the Day edition. Might not be what you're expecting. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
They shimmer. And when I meet the band, they ask, do you have a man? I can still say I don't remember. Familiarity breeds contempt, so put me in the basement when I want the penthouse of your heart. Diamonds in my eyes. I polish up real. Diamonds all night, and you can try to change my mind. Just might have to wait a night. What's a girl gonna do? I polish up nights, believe I'm still
Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenhoff. Coming to you from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Putz de Leon continues to actively ruin. Just a reminder, if you haven't yet, download the Civic Media app. It is absolutely free. You can call and text directly to all of the shows all across the network, no matter where you are in the state. We also have Badger games that you can listen on the app, and it's absolutely free. So
Also,
go get the app.
You can customize it too for the things you want: sports, weather, news, all those things.
Sign up for newsletters.
It's wonderful.
It is pretty wonderful. And there's going to be a app-specific contest coming very soon. So people can win wonderful and fabulous prizes that could, but probably won't, change the course of your entire life.
Can you count on that? Absolutely.
Absolutely, Greg Bach. All right, it's 11:53, Calvin. That means it is time for...
This shouldn't be a thing.
If you ever have a thing you think should not be, send it into Greg and me at janesays@civicmedia.us. This one I found on insidethemagic.net. I don't even know what this
sounds
is.
credible.
But it was posted by Eva Miller.
Yep.
Giving credit to Disney for the photo on there. Headline reads, Haunted Mansion shut down after guest disposes of human remains. In a bizarre and concerning incident at Walt Disney World Resort, the Haunted Mansion ride on November 30th had to be temporarily closed and evacuated after a guest tried to scatter human ashes during the ride. The act, which has been confirmed as a recurring issue in theme parks, resulted in significant disruption for guests and immediate response from park staff.
Folks, by the way, really quick here. Anytime, if you're listening, whether you're listening on the live stream or when you hear this noise, that's Jane being very upset.
That's my mouse.
That's just like...
The report shared by a park guest describes the selfishness of the act, emphasizing repercussions for both staff and the remains themselves.
This
Quote,
is the best.
Quote, as I write this, Haunted Mansion is down and being evacuated due to someone spreading human ashes on the ride. Aside from the selfishness of the act, your loved one's ashes are going to be vacuumed up into a bucket with mouse droppings and other detritus and thrown in the garbage.
But Jane, magic mouse droppings. They're cartoon mice.
I can't think of a more ignominious end to someone that I cared for. Plus, if we can identify who did it, after all, there are cameras all throughout that park.
Yes.
You're probably going to be banned from attending all Disney property. In other words, please don't do this. Yeah, don't do that. Scattering human ashes in public places, including Disney, is not only against park rules, but also illegal in many jurisdictions without proper authorization. This also raises questions about respect and common courtesy.
No one wants to I don't want to step on Aunt Rosie's ashes. I would feel so bad.
Can you imagine going and then all of a sudden you get a big pff in your face?
Yeah.
And that was Uncle Wilbur.
What was that? What was that? Oh, he loved this ride.
People.
Can we just go? And honestly, if I thought about this beforehand, I would have gotten some dramatic music. The letter is so good because they use words like detritus and ignominious.
Ignominious is a good word.
I mean, someone went to community college probably. It's amazing. I love this letter so much.
Amazingly, this is not an isolated incident.
Narp.
People trying to scatter ashes in Disney parks, fairly common. Popular attractions like the Haunted Mansion often attract those who wish to leave a part of their loved ones in a place they cherished while they're alive. But this can cause significant operational disruptions, pose health concerns, and ultimately result in the remains of Uncle Wilbur being disposed of in an undignified manner. Disney parks, says this article, are cherished for making memories. They're not equipped to serve as a final resting place.
I am really surprised at this point that Disney doesn't have a service where they're like, did your loved one Did they love coming here?
That would be a huge moneymaker for
Maybe
them.
not involving the ashes, or maybe involving the ashes, where they have a specific area. You could have a little
In
ceremony.
memoriam.
In memoriam, you can dash them over. You can dash them over some flowers as a fertilizer.
But see, you'd have to pay for that.
You think that people wouldn't pay $500 for that service?
Because that's why they're doing it on the Haunted Mansion ride, because they don't want to have to pay for an internment.
What was your favorite ride? It was the Tower of Terror. Oh, no.
Yeah, okay. That's today's round of...
This shouldn't be a thing.
Really shouldn't. Coming up on the show tomorrow, we will have J.R. Radcliffe will be here to talk all things sports, weather and wine with Brittany Merlot, and much, much more. Thank you, Greg and Calvin, and all of our engineers. Without you guys, nothing works. Thank you most of all for calling and for texting and for listening. It absolutely means the world. I hope you find some joy today, just a little, and you have the chance to share it. Stay tuned for news coming up next, followed by Todd Alba, Maggie Dawn, Dom Salvia, and Pete Schwaba. Stay with us. You're listening to the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll see you tomorrow.